Welcome to the Deucecast Extra. We are here on a Tuesday night, as always, but there's not a show to really talk about. So, just to kind of like get us to the next show, I figured this would be a good time since it's like quote unquote Star Wars week. May the 4th is this week, obviously, that we talk about the franchise. As the title of the episode says, the state of the Star Wars franchise. We may release this in audio format, so I'm going to do things a little bit differently and go around the horn here. We've got Garrison Rifen, who can be heard every Tuesday and seen every Tuesday on Deucecast Extra, occasional guest of the Deucecast Movie Show. And if you are in Georgia, Brunswick, Savannah area, you can hear him on the news every day on Straight Talk. Garrison, how's it going, buddy?
Some would say, I'm Garrison Rifen.
Well, you just did it yourself, so there you go.
Yes. I do it every day. Or maybe I copy and paste an audio file that I just liked.
That's right.
One or the other.
Yeah,
I'm doing
exactly.
well. I'm
Good.
excited to talk about the state of Star Wars.
Yeah, this is going to be a good conversation, I think. We've also got Roth from Wyoming, Jacob Roth. How's it going, buddy? Host of the Good Day for a Movie podcast, who just had a disappointing episode of The Breakfast Club. I, as a Gen Xer, was disappointed in the review of The Breakfast Club.
I was also disappointed, and since it is the state of Star Wars,
hello,
Dello Felagets. One of the greatest lines in Star Wars history. I think that's how we should start off this state of Star Wars.
Yes, awesome. Hey, Ted, how's it going, buddy? Welcome to the State of Star Wars franchise conversation. And then last but certainly not least, we have got star of Leeds Community Theater, Mr. Rhett Barnett. How is it going, sir?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm fresh off my successful 2-weekend run in Sabrina Fair.
That's right.
Terribly exhausting work. I still got little pricks on my skin from all the roses that were thrown at me.
Oh, yes.
Thorny roses, not those. Yeah.
I mean, it was the community theater, so I didn't know what you were talking about.
There's some of that backstage, too. I'm anxious to talk about the state of the Star Wars franchise. Just right off the bat, if I had to associate it with the state, I would associate it with California, where there's PCs everywhere and just rampant lawlessness.
Yeah, and Nate, hopefully Steve is going to make it this evening. He is a busy man, but he is a Star Wars guru. So I was hoping to get him on the show. Hopefully he'll be able to come. Dr. Earl is out of town also, so I don't know if he's going to be here. Dave Dollar might show up later also. This is going to be like a progressive dinner type thing. Like
I've been present for a couple of Steve rants on Star Wars, and they are glorious, and I'm anxious to see it.
They are epic. So here's what I want to do. I want to kind of set the table a little bit, just to kind of get everybody in the right mindset. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, before we set the table, we do have somebody that would like to join us at the table, and that is one Steve Glosson from Geek Out Loud. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, man. How are you? Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. Has the show started? I'm sorry I'm late.
We did. I like to be pretty on time with these things because, I'm just that way. But it doesn't matter. I mean, because we're going to have others show up later. It's,
This is a progressive table, Steve.
The progressive dinner.
Did the show begin 3 minutes ago? 4 minutes ago?
It did.
Yes.
4 minutes ago. Yes, it did.
I am so sorry. I'm sorry to waste everyone's time.
You've got a fan in the chat already, Mr. Ted Milich. I don't know how to say. Oh, and of course, Aussie Nate. Aussie Nate was wanting to release the Glosson cut, so you are here. I was about to set the table for the conversation, Steve, just to get everybody.
I'm glad I made it just in time. I love a good table set.
Just in time for the bill. I'm going to read a quote from a couple weeks ago here, and I just want everybody to keep this in their mind.
Hey, I'm Garrison Rifen. Good to see you, man.
See, I told you guys.
Yeah. So I'm going to read this quote. I
Hey,
will
Ross
just.
from Wyoming.
Can I get the quote out, Steve? Let me
The
get
railing
the
has
quote out.
begun.
Let me just get the. We can derail later. Let me just get the quote out. I will just say that for reasons that I can't get
Brett,
into.
I'm not trying to leave
this...
you out. Hey, buddy, good to see you too.
No, I knew you were going to time it just right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Okay.
Hey, Mikey, I understand you have a quote you'd like to read.
I'm just trying to set the table, Steve. I'm just
go
trying
ahead.
to. Okay.
I'm sorry for wasting everyone's
I will
time.
just say that for reasons that I can't get into on this Sunday morning, on this day, the degree of difficulty is extremely, extremely, extremely high. Lindelof, that being Damon Lindelof, said about making a Star Wars movie at this moment in time. If it can't be great, it shouldn't exist. So that's just kind of like, I want everybody to mull that in their heads.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that as we're thinking of the state of the Star Wars franchise, because I don't know, we're in a really interesting crossroads, I think.
Can I add some context to that real quick?
No.
Oh, no. Can I add
Yes,
some
you
context?
can. No, you can. Go, please.
My understanding is Damon was asked to leave the project.
We did find out that on the 28th, he admitted in an Esquire article that he was asked to leave, yes. And that he would willingly come back, though. That's what was interesting to me. Even after that quote from a couple weeks ago where he said extremely, extremely, extremely difficult to write a script for Star Wars, he said he'd come back. So
no, when he says it, if it can't be great, it shouldn't be done. Does he mean specifically Star Wars, or is he talking about his catalog of work? Because I would suggest to you that Star Trek Into Darkness is not great.
He is specifically talking about Star Wars in the context of that
the context of that quote. Yeah.
Well, then I wish more people associated with Star Wars had that same opinion.
Yeah. I mean, that's I know. No, I agree. And I we can talk about Lucasian Star Wars versus Disney Star Wars. I mean, this week I think
Star Wars,
Felonious Monk Star Wars. No, I think this week most of us had the opportunity.
I believe it's Philanesian.
You're right. Fava-Philanesian, maybe Fava. Yeah,
it's Favronian.
Favronian and Philanesian.
Both good salad dressings, also.
I think most of us had the opportunity to go catch Return of the Jedi on the big screen, and it just reminded me how much I care for this product.
And it spawned a bunch of Last Jedi conversations all over Twitter.
I drove 95 miles for Return of the Jedi, an hour and a half.
As you should have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to call out Aussie Nate here. I am. I know he's in the chat. He was complaining about having to drive 77 miles to see Star Wars. I would have driven I would have driven I was surprised Birmingham got it. I would have driven to Atlanta or Nashville.
But 77 miles in Australia is like 200 kilometers. So it sounds a lot bigger than it is.
Yeah, and you have to fight through dingoes and spiders and
yeah, listen, 77 miles in America is 90 something miles in Wyoming is like one straight shot. You can see the theater from your house.
Right.
But in Australia, if you're traveling 77 miles, you've got the fierce snake, the crocodiles, the wallabies, the dingoes, all the crikey.
Don't let that dingo near your baby.
Danger.
You're traipsing over sacred Aboriginal lands.
Right. Yeah.
Sacred Aboriginal lands.
Yeah, you just can't.
Look, no excuses. Nate lives in Iowa. He has to fight corn.
Yeah, that's true.
And why is he calling himself Aussie Nate?
Because he's from Australia.
Because he's from Australia originally. Yeah.
And he's in Iowa now?
Mm-hmm.
He is. And he's an American citizen now. He went so far to take the
that
test.
explains what Aussie Nate used to be tough.
Yeah. Once you become an American citizen, you're done.
He left the prison colony of Australia to the soft underbelly of the United States.
That's right.
He would have had to cross the Great Barrier Reef.
You don't want to take a stingray barb in the chest out there just trying to see Star Wars.
Right.
Well,
so I mean,
I don't like.
Everybody's making a too soon face. It's been like 10 years.
Steve Irwin was a worldwide treasure. He was a global treasure, and he should be cherished.
He should be. I'm sure there's a.
Let me tell you, Rat. Steve loves animals.
No, I don't love animals. but I know about them.
Yes, I know.
Hey, I'd like to weigh in.
Yes, do it.
Okay. On the Return of the Jedi thing, it's definitely worth going to see.
Yeah.
This is what I tweeted and I put in the Geek Out Loud Discord
Mhm.
that's inspired by the Deucecast.
Thank you.
That this was some of the best Star Wars since Empire Strikes Back. Well, that's what everyone always says about anything new Star Wars. Like,
yeah.
Bad Batch season finale, best Star Wars since Empire.
You're right.
You know,
right.
and it's
It
like
always goes back to that. Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, well, guess what? Boom, drop the mic. Here you go. This was the best Star Wars since Empire. I looked at my wife when the credits were, right after the Iris is out on our cast and the people we love and that we all know are walking to their broken marriages and failed Jedi teachings and the individual dooms.
Your assassination of their nephews.
Right. Yeah. We're just
Happy ever after.
watching that. And I looked at my wife and said, that's the way you end a Star Wars movie. With hope. With hope. Like even the darkest of the original trilogy, everyone talks about Empire being so dark. Leia and Luke were looking toward hope. Chewie and Lando were flying toward hope. There was a plan. There was hope, even in the midst of all the darkness. And that's Star Wars. I mean, that from the very first Star Wars we ever knew was all about hope, even though it wasn't necessarily titled A New Hope until its re-release. That's what it was. It was about the hope of being able to go beyond and above. And you mentioned earlier, we can talk Lucasian Star Wars, we can talk Disney Star Wars.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be that much of a demarcation. The people who took over, the people who were entrusted with Star Wars should have understood what Star Wars is and how Star Wars works. And there should not be that line of demarcation. As far as Lindelof saying if it can't be great, it shouldn't be. I think that is subjective, but I agree with the sentiment. I understand, I think, what he's trying to say. And obviously what that tells me is there were some creative differences between he and the powers that be. That's not the first time this has happened with this regime. This happened again and again and again and again. And I think that,
man, just masterful storytellers in Lord and Miller. You watch their work they do in the animated field, and 21 Jump Street is even a much better film than it should be.
Yes.
And you're telling me those guys couldn't do a great solo film?
I
challenges of having a recast there, I think it would have
been. I think that, well, I mean, you look at what Gareth Edwards did with Rogue One, and the fact that they're like, oh, he gave them what they asked for, and then they're like, no, we don't want this because people enjoyed the humor of The Force Awakens. Well, then you should have had this vision from the get-go. The problem has been with Disney Star Wars a lack of cohesive vision. And so when you have Favreau and Filoni come along and he's doing that final season of Clone Wars, Favreau and he are doing The Mandalorian. There is an arc there, and just watch those roundtable discussions they have where all of these other creators, as Filoni starts to wax, eloquent about the Force and about the story of Star Wars, watch them just be enraptured with this guy gets it and he understands it. And there was a cohesive vision. Outside of that, there hasn't been. It's been, oh, we want to make everything canon. Everything matters. Everything. And it's like, it doesn't have to. We existed for years on the books are the books and the movies are the movies. The comics are the comics and the movies are the movies. We don't have, because the minute you start making everything canon, then everything suddenly becomes so vital and so important. And the mundane stuff and the stupid stuff is like, oh, I wish this wasn't in there, but it is. And it's just, I agree with the sentiment of Lindelof. If it's not great Star Wars, it shouldn't exist. But I guess, the question then becomes, what is great Star Wars? And I think we've been given a mixed bag from Disney lately. If we're talking to the state of Star Wars, I think I think the state of Star Wars. But the commentator here believes the state of Star Wars is a mixed bag. It's a nuanced, fun conversation to have.
Okay.
Do you want to bring back G canon?
G-level canon. Listen, we call that I'm Garrison Rifen canon.
Hey, I want to piggyback off something that Steve said. He referenced Empire and the end of that, and even in that, the down beat of the show, of the movie, and how there was still this hopeful end to it, and just the way that movie is structured, to me feels like Star Wars as well. You have a climax, you have a denouement, you have falling action. It was not a cliffhanger, and what people have gotten into now, and what Star Wars has become, is this cliffhanger nonsense. And a lot of people point to The Last Jedi and say, well, that is where the it crapped the bed, right? But I think it was before that. I think structurally, what J.J. Abrams did with The Force Awakens he started he dug a hole that it couldn't get out of. That movie ended on a cliffhanger, and that's not Star Wars. Star Wars, you understand your characters, you understand their motivations, you understand the world. It was always that way. And so not only did he left you the whole of that movie was the search for Luke Skywalker. Then you find him and nothing happens. It's totally unsatisfying.
The alleged hook to get JJ was, who is Luke Skywalker? What is he doing? Right. That wasn't even addressed in that movie.
Right.
That's so true.
And then JJ's like, never mind, I don't want to do all three. I only want to do this one and I'm out. It's
so, and then the whole, from a world building standpoint, you leave your characters at the end of Jedi. That we have this fresh take on Return of the Jedi now because we've seen it. I haven't seen it yet. I know it, and Iris is out on this hopeful vision of everybody smiling and happy and laughing. And the next time we see them, Luke is broken. He's Han is a deadbeat father who's abandoned his, all the responsibilities. Leia is fighting the same battles against basically the same people that we thought she won. So the very next time you see them, everything is undone about their characters. All their development happened off camera, and that's not the way Star Wars was for us. Well, all that character development happened in the trilogy. We saw Han's arc. Now, by Return of the Jedi, he didn't have much left to do, but you couldn't get rid of him at that point. But we saw Luke's arc.
We get the shrug, and we get
Yeah, right. No, I mean, he still has his moments, but from
Han had a lot to do. He was picked to lead the battle on the ground.
And not just that, he also the Leia relationship really develops in that film, obviously.
It does, but character-wise, his arc was completed. Okay,
here's the thing, though. Here's the thing with that: we got to see a matured Han Solo to an extent. We got to see Han finally come around to letting down the gruff exterior to being part of the heroes. This, I'm not in it for your rebellion, sister. I'm in it for the money. That has gone now, and he put his life on the line for the freedom of the galaxy. And I think that's one of the great things about Return of the Jedi is you get to see these characters come into a certain amount of maturity that, frankly, they're kind of catching up with Leia. Han and Luke and are kind of catching up with where Leia was, but Luke is doing this amazing thing where, when Yoda says, I don't have anything else to teach you, like this look comes out, I am a Jedi, and of course Yoda's like, no, you got to face Vader again. This is the final trial, basically. And Luke does this thing that is absolutely unfathomable, even to these Jedi who are one with the Force, and that is, I can pull this man back from the dark side.
And the Emperor has already won.
And so suddenly, the entire original trilogy, the entire original saga, 1 through 6, becomes a redemption story, and a story of family redeeming one another, and that's something that was, look, I know Mikey doesn't want this to turn into a whole bashing the sequels thing, and I don't mean to turn into that.
No, I don't care.
But that is the beginning. That is kind of the foundation of where we're at with Star Wars now, because even with The Mandalorian, I'm one of the weirdos who enjoyed Mandalorian season 3 for the most part. There was one episode that I thought was not really enjoyable that I wish would have been broken up into like subplots and little scenes here and there to intersplice throughout the season to kind of that Coruscant episode is what I'm talking about. I wish they would have shortened it down and made it little interstitials, scenes. Building up. Yeah, a C plot for sure. But other than that, I enjoyed it. I didn't, there was no big reveal at the end of the season or anything like that. And that was fine with me. Like, I wasn't let down by that because of the amazing action and set pieces we got, the big battles. but I'm reminded the minute we step into that Imperial Council meeting, with all the warlords, and we turn and there's this Hux individual, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're headed toward this.
Yeah,
we're headed toward the First Order.
Praetorian Guards. Oh boy.
Right. We're headed toward a bunch of bummer endings for all of our favorite characters in the world. And that's not a Star Wars problem. That has been an issue in a lot of the franchises that have come back around in that are like 30 years old. And now we're going to catch up with our characters, and they're in the worst possible places. But it doesn't have to be that way to be interesting,
Picard season 1 and 2 did that. They deconstructed that character, and that when all of the Federation, the foundation that kind of Star Trek was, this hopeful exploration and study of the human condition, and they deconstructed all of that, and then they finally kind of pieced it back together a little bit for season 3. But yeah, you're right. That's the nature of media today, and all these franchises, they just want to deconstruct and make it look more like the world today, and we don't want it to look like that.
Here's an interesting idea. How about pick up with our characters and everything's fine, and something happens to shake up the status quo that they've been living in? How about that? What's wrong with that? Right. But the problem is like, well, we want to tear these bastards down, and it's like, come on. Yeah. And I love what you said, Roth, about the whole idea of JJ. What drew him in was, who is Luke Skywalker, and he never told us. I do think Luke was done a disservice in a way in The Force Awakens by not showing up the minute Han died. Like, that should have been the thing that shook Luke out of his whatever was going on. And I think that Rian Johnson was done a disservice by not communicating, or by J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan not communicating with him. This is our idea from what's going on. This is kind of where we see things going. And I think all of those filmmakers were done a disservice by the Star Wars head honchos not saying, here is the start, the middle, and the end. Fill in the gaps for us.
Rian Johnson undid the end of Force Awakens, right? The original ending, JJ had Luke, showing off this, extreme Force ability, kind of like him at peace and meditating in the Force with these rocks floating around and all this. And Rian Johnson said, no, that's not the Luke I want to portray. I want him disconnected from the Force. So you change the end of it, and which. Go ahead.
You also had the Force Awakens script where it says Luke knows why Rey's here or whatever, and Ryan totally throws that out the window because it's not said on the screen or whatever. But yeah,
I mean, do we think that from the very beginning that Rey was going to be Palpatine's creation?
No.
Do we think that?
I think. Look,
I don't think they knew.
I really don't. J.J. Abrams works in this mystery box format, and he doesn't have a clue until much later.
I think JJ is a very good filmmaker, but I don't want him working on my endings necessarily. He sets up some very interesting questions, and I really enjoy 7. I love Mission Impossible 3, but almost none of the questions proposed in those films are ever answered.
That's true. What is the rabbit's foot?
Literally. No. Not only do you not find out, Lawrence Fishburne literally almost pisses me off a little bit, because every time I rewatch it, he's like, maybe one day I'll tell you, Ethan, or whatever.
Right. Well, I was a big fan of Smallville back in the day. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that show or not. Yeah. And I hosted a little podcast about that for a while. And it was interesting because there'd be these things that would happen on screen that should have huge ramifications for the future for Superman's life. And whenever the creators, Alan Miles, were asked about it, Miles Millar and Al Goff, they always said, we don't have to worry about that. That's a Superman problem. We're not doing a Superman show. We're doing a Clark Kent show. And I think that J.J. Abrams did that. I'll also liken it under wrestling. Dusty Rhodes is one of the greatest of all times. He's one of the greatest performers, and he was so creative in everything that he came up with. But eventually what happened with Dusty is his finishes, to try to keep a story going, always became what they called Dusty finishes. In other words, a match would seem to end that the good guys won, but there'd be some technical thing where the bad guy still kept the championship or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, you had a guy over in the WWF working, or WWE working, named Pat Patterson. And Pat Patterson had a mind to bring everything to a close in a good way that would be make the audience angry as you want them to be or as happy as you want them to be, and still have doors open to move forward. And I think that what you have in J.J. Abrams is a great idea guy, but he needs a good finish man in his corner to help him know how to wrap things up. And
yeah, and you would have thought Chris Terrio would have been that guy. I'm surprised that
those pro wrestling storylines are better than Rise of Skywalker story.
Some of them have been for sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, you watched the Mega Powers explode back in 1989. Come on. That's how you do Friends falling apart and things going south.
All right, well let's hear from the younger generation here, Garrison and Roth. I mean, what do you,
sorry,
guys. No. What do you guys feel is the state of the Star Wars franchise? I'll start with Garrison.
Yeah, that's a really good question because I think, one thing, I've been steeped in Star Wars my entire life.
I don't know. Who's your dad again? Is that
exactly. Scott Raven? I'm the G-Man's dad. I'm so proud of G-Man. G-Man's over there talking Star Wars. I walk in his room. He's like, "What are you doing?" Other kids are doing things you shouldn't be doing. G-Man's like, "I'm talking about Star Wars, Dad."
His whole Star Wars collection, his DVD collection's over to the right of me. So, I grew up with the original trilogy, watching those on VHS tapes, and so there's two brains to me. There's how I observe Star Wars myself, and then there's how I observe Star Wars through my friends who are my age.
Do
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I like this
because they didn't necessarily grow up with parents who were as Star Wars crazy as my dad is. But their parents knew of Star Wars, showed them Star Wars, and so the franchise is in an interesting place. I would say my normie friends really enjoy The Mandalorian. Some of them enjoyed Andor, some of them really didn't care for it. One of them watches the cartoons, most of the rest of them don't. I think really at the end of the day, the franchise is going to live or die by whatever happens with the end of Mando. Because I don't know that these movies that they're trying to make besides the Mando one are going to come out. Why didn't Scott get an invite? Well, who knows?
No, I'm putting in the chat why he didn't get an invite.
Some of us have to get up at 4:30 in the morning to do a radio show.
So no, it's not 4:30. It's 3. He gets up. He corrected me when I said 4:30. It's 3 something.
I get up at 3 a.m. and I go ahead and ride my bike to get that out of the way for the day, and then I got to shower because I'm all sweaty, and then it's a 20-minute ride to the studio. And by the time I get there, I've got to sit down by 5:30 and go through the paper and go through everything, get all my thoughts together so I can do nothing but take calls for 4 hours.
Wait. He does not enjoy taking calls for 4 hours. I can tell you that.
I give him a hard time about taking too many. I told him you need to be his call screener.
It's funny that you think he takes too many calls because he takes less than his former host.
That's because he lets everybody talk so much.
It's got to have the quick hook.
I'm like, I want to say, Scott, the same point you use to answer the phone, you can use to hang it up, pal. Just hang it up.
Wow. Oh, all right, Roth. I mean, what are your thoughts on the state of the Star Wars franchise?
Like Garrison, Star Wars has been there all of my life. I was born in 95. My first real memory was seeing The Phantom Menace in the theater. My parents weren't like massive Star Wars people, but my babysitter was. And so that's why I became that way.
Story's taking a turn, yeah.
That's why you're into Star Wars.
Was your babysitter Alicia Silverstone?
No, he's in the 501st now.
Oh, it's a he
as well.
Forget this babysitter.
Yeah. It's not. It was also when I was like 3, so that's where I got introduced to Star Wars. But where it's at now, I think what Garrison was saying about the Mando stuff is really kind of the linchpin of this whole thing. And
it's the most popular amongst my friend group.
Yeah, and it certainly is numbers wise on Disney Plus also.
That stopped watching the sequel trilogy after 7 or 8, but one or the other, personally.
They just didn't finish it?
Yeah, but they love Mando. And they love Baby Yoda. I love Baby Yoda.
And I do think, unfortunately, it has become a very it's just another franchise. It's nothing special right now in the general public's eyes.
It's lost its luster.
Not in my eyes.
It's up there with Marvel for people.
Yeah, and
which is
probably
something
even below Marvel. It's probably closer to like the DC movies for people.
If you were to tell a Star Wars fan that it was up there with Marvel, they probably cringe a little bit. Just because it used to be held in a much higher esteem to some people.
I agree with that.
Star Wars is not it's still a part of pop culture, right? It's a piece of the zeitgeist, but it is not the cultural event. It is not Star Wars shaped culture.
It was Force Awakens was.
We have blockbuster tentpole movies in the summer today because of Star Wars. Okay,
and Spielberg, yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Jaws. I know in that neighborhood, but those shaped the culture. And
look, I'm sorry. I want to just
blasphemy, Craig.
Why do we need Scott here when Garrison makes the same kind of things? Well, and Spielberg. Don't forget Spielberg.
Well, all I have to say, my point is that it is not the event, not on the pedestal that it was, and people don't. At some point in history, no one was indifferent to Star Wars, really. Now there's a lot of indifference to Star Wars.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
that's not good. I mean, I don't know if is it saturation. It's certainly not an event type thing anymore.
Well,
there's so much of it that it has become rote. ROTE.
I also think. But even before the sequel trilogy, the length of time between the prequels and the sequel trilogy was a time when indifference, I think, really set in, especially with younger generations of kids who didn't grow up and go to see it in the theater necessarily. Or when they did, it was the prequel trilogy, and there was a lot of bashing of that when I was younger.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I think that there's several things at play with it. I think, Garrison, I think you're right, except for I think that Star Wars has taken a back seat in a lot of ways to what Marvel has become.
Yeah.
And I understand why you say Star Wars fans would cringe at that, because if you talk to a Star Wars fan in the 90s and said, well, Star Wars is basically what Marvel is now, that person, if there was no knowledge of anything that has happened since before the prequels, they would say you're crazy because of because Rhett's right. Star Wars shaped the culture. Star Wars defined so much about what pop culture in America is. It was the new American mythology.
It also shaped the industry.
Right. And so what's happened now in these modern times is that when Disney took over, and I mentioned this today talking on another Deucecast spinoff show about Marvel of all things, is that when Disney bought it, what you had is a bunch of Disney fans who jumped on a bandwagon. They were aware of Star Wars, but they never really cared about Star Wars. And suddenly, now that it's a Disney thing, they care about it. And then we've got a culture where everyone wants to be on board in the memes, and they want to be on board with everything that's going on. And Baby Yoda is prime meme material. If A New Hope was released in the modern times, Jawas would be the meme material, all the different stuff, you release it as it is. Utini would be all over backpacks. You'd have gifs of the Jawa popping up to shoot R2, showing up, and there'd be some kind of funny meme to go along with that. Me after going to that pizza buffet, that kind of thing.
But you know what? You talk about the meme, that Baby Yoda, the Baby Yoda meme. He'll always be Baby Yoda to me. I see people on Facebook, let's say. I see people post these. It's Baby Yoda, and it's a quote that's totally unrelated to Star Wars. Right. It's nothing. It's just it's just him standing there, often holding that coffee cup from.
It's like a Minions meme,
right? Yeah, it's totally unrelated. And the people that I see posting them are not Star Wars people. They are oblivious to Star Wars. They may not even have an understanding of the origin of that character,
right,
to some extent. And so, for that reason, I think even that has diminished Star Wars.
Yeah, that's my point. Is the fandom and the casual fandom and the people who just want to jump on board a bandwagon moment have really diminished it. Now, then you have to look and say also the corporate mentality. never forget Disney paid, upwards of $4 billion for this franchise, and their whole thing has been get the money back and turn a profit. And and so everything they do is done not with creativity in mind, but with making money in mind. And people used to throw that out as a criticism against George Lucas. The only reason the Ewoks are in there is so he could sell toys. Well, yeah, guess what he had going for him? Nothing else but Lucasfilm. That was his baby. And also, you know what else George Lucas did so he could make money for his company? He parceled out ILM to people to do and push the medium of special effects forward more and more and more, year by year by year.
Yeah, he made more money not doing Star Wars than he made doing Star Wars.
Right. So if George Lucas wants to sell some toys with some Ewoks, God bless him, let him do it. If George Lucas thinks that having a Gungan army in episode 1 is going to be the big toy pull, go for it, sir. It's his to do that with. But he also can look at you and give you a creative reason that after he's through talking to you, well, the Ewoks really represent everything that the Empire shouldn't be able to be brought down by. And when they stand up and rise up and fight, you find out this great technological society is brought down by these primitive people who just believe in freedom. When he starts talking like, yes, sir, George Lucas, you're darn kidding. When I hear Rian Johnson go on his defense tour of The Last Jedi, what I hear is someone saying, I wish you liked my stuff. Please like my stuff. I don't understand. George Lucas was like, I don't give a crap if you like it or not. This is the story I'm telling, and you never saw George Lucas go on some press tour to say, here's what all of this means. It was you figured out for yourself. And so you had people writing, here are the Christian themes of Star Wars. Here are the Buddhist themes of Star Wars. Here's why Star Wars is a Methodist tale. Here's why Star Wars is a Mormon tale. Here's why, literally they would do that. Why? Because the mythology was so big. And now because of the corporate machine, and look, capitalism, rah, rah, rah. But anytime a business gets involved in the creative side of things, if you don't have a visionary like a Walt Disney, like a Jim Henson, like a George Lucas leading the charge, you're going to find that these things begin to fall short and begin to fall into cookie cutter kind of things with little bright spots like The Mandalorian, like maybe for some people Andor, like for, some people Bad Batch. You're going to find these kind of things pop up here and there that people really enjoy. But by and large, it's going to feel a little bit more soulless than even episodes 1, 2, and 3 felt.
And I want to take us down. I'm going to piggyback off of that, and I'm going to take us down a little bit of a weird road here. But I'm not going to dwell on it. But I'm going to say it.
Oh, if we go down weird roads, I'm ready.
Buckle up.
You see this capitalism and marketing kind of, as a motivation for all of it. Well, that's not all. We have gotten to this point where there's a little bit of I'm going to say there's a little identity politics, and there's some.
I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm
right. There is, and so that hinders storytelling a little bit. It becomes where there is this marketing, but they're using it to not just to tell a story, but to send a message. And it's not always overt, but sometimes it's just like it's just this thread that runs through the storytelling that you can see, and it hinders it, and it ruins immersion because you have some characters elevated in ways that they shouldn't be, where they are in their arcs and all these other things. And that I never got that out of Lucasian Star Wars. I didn't feel that from him. The female characters were powerful and capable, but it was never at the expense of the male characters. And it seems like in this iteration of Star Wars, the Disney Star Wars, that does happen, where the female characters are elevated a little because of how incompetent the men appear to be. They get
forget the Holdo maneuver. I remember the Holdo slap. That's what I remember.
Well, that was a Leia slap. Leia slapped him.
I thought Holdo slapped him.
No, that was a Leia slap.
I quite literally don't remember.
I don't.
Leia slapped him.
I've seen that movie
I tried to block that out.
After Poe saved the fleet. Okay, he destroyed a dreadnought that would have taken out the fleet. But he was punished for it, and while he's the only man in the frame in the shot, right?
He gets
all these, and it's just it started to be a little overt, or too overt for me, even if it was never just plastered on the side of the wall. But I think that hinders it too, and where that's a change from what came before. That's not the way Star Wars was before.
Creativity is definitely stifled if you try to put anything or any character or any situation in any type of box like that. If you say a character has to check off these things about their presentation outwardly or whatever, then you're gonna stifle creativity, and before you know it, you're gonna have a rock that is a navigator in a starship somehow.
Yep.
You know,
Geode, a little Geode shout out.
Well, I tell you what, here's the thing. The minute I saw that Geode was going to be a thing, and I've said this before, and I'm sorry to be repetitive, but I learned from the best. I'm Scott Rifen. I'm Garrison Rifen. No, I'm what was I saying? Oh, if you go back and you look at some certain properties that really get a bad rap, one of them does anyway, GoBots. When GoBots really started to kind of falter in their sales, what did they turn to? The Rock Lords.
The Rock Lords.
Yeah. When He-Man was on the way out, it wasn't the Snake Man they turned to, it was the Rock Warriors. The
Rock, yeah, it's all about the rocks.
And it was like anything that turned into a rock. So my thing is, the moment creativity runs out, we've thrown all kinds of things. We've got guns that transform. We've got cars that transform. We've got planes, spaceships that transform. We've got a barbarian. We've got a skeleton face man. We've got Snake Man. We've got a beast man. We've got Hordak and his evil hordes. We've got 2-headed, 3-headed aliens. What else we got left? Here's a rock.
I got a rock.
Like the minute you say, hey, here's a great idea for a character. What if we had a rock that was a navigator on a starship? That sounds awesome. Greenlit, go. To me, that kind of tells you, at least in that part of the Star Wars machine, things are not what's going on there. You've got a wealth of, it's almost like, well, we don't want to put too many Rhodians or too many Trandoshans, or we don't want to have a hammerhead in there. Why not?
Can't you create a species that is ambulatory? That is not literally a rock. Like if you don't want more Rhodians,
well, he moves. Geode moves.
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
Yeah, so do the Rock Lords.
Yeah, I mean, so do mountains. I mean, they just get real slow.
So Garrison, I mean, do you think there is hope? I mean, do we have hope knowing where the future is? We've got a lot from Celebration. Like, here's what's coming in the future. I mean, do they have a clue what they're going to do?
I mean, it depends on what you like about Star Wars. I mean, I'm excited.
Are we going to continue down the same road, I guess, that we're already on? Like, as far as... I think
it's almost a pointless discussion, because how many of those things are actually going to be made?
Well, the shows are.
The shows are.
The Mando movie's the only one.
The things that are announced. I mean, all those things.
Well, I mean, somebody did make a point that anything that's ever actually been announced at Celebration does happen. If it's not been announced at Celebration, like SDCC.
What about the Feige movie that was announced that then was...
That wasn't announced at Celebration.
I think that was...
Let me tell you what was announced at Celebration. Rogue Squadron. Headed by Patty Jenkins.
No,
that was D23.
That was
they had a whole teaser. They had a whole teaser they made of it and everything.
That was December 2020 Investor Day.
Though. That wasn't Celebration.
I mean, that's their loophole.
But I think
that's the loophole. That's just a loophole, though. Yeah, it is a loophole.
They would have done that at a Celebration if they held it.
Exactly.
Now, I mean, I guess they never actually announced it, but what was the guy's name that
did the Trank? Josh Trank, Boba Fett.
He was there.
It got
never actually went out on stage.
Panel.
He never actually went out on stage. So there's your loophole. I mean, they were ready to announce the Trank thing at a Celebration because he was in the building, but they pulled him back.
If you remember, ILM was asked to create a visual of the Death Star coming over Yavin.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we're doing this Rogue One thing. Super last minute. And that's what replaced the
Rogue Squad. Yeah, you're right, Craig.
It
was like an Investor Day thing.
It was absolutely Investor Day. It was where there's all that stuff got announced.
The point is, it's like Garrison said, had there been a Celebration, remember Celebration was put off that year because of everything that would have been revealed at Celebration.
Probably. You're right.
They spent the money to do
They
a whole.
still have the loophole though.
Well,
I mean, we'll see how long that holds because I don't think
the writer's strike is not going to help. I mean, that's going to push.
That ain't going to last long.
Really?
August?
I don't know.
I think August.
They're projecting earliest July.
Yeah,
that's not long.
Back in 2007. Back in 2007, it went like 100 days.
Right.
Yeah, it was November to February. Yeah.
And
this one feels longer. This one feels more. Because they're trying to get streaming money, and that's going to be the executives aren't going to be willing to give that up.
They're streaming money, and then it's really it's a lot of different.
They also want some money, and because they all have major cocaine habits that ain't going to go away just because they go on strike.
Good night. Brett is on fire tonight. Good Lord. It's like I thought I'm going to come in and be the wild card. Rhett's like, no,
Rhett.
Man.
Yeah, Rhett's like, let me.
His nickname's Hurricane for a reason.
His nickname's Hurricane Rhett. Yeah, at least when it comes to the Deucecast stuff, it's Hurricane Rhett. Yeah, it's it's pretty ridiculous.
Well, all that to say, I mean, this is a different world than then. I mean, you could buy $100,000 house back then, and it'd be livable. That ain't the world anymore. Not for these Hollywood types. They got to have their luxury. They got to keep throwing their dinner parties, and they're going to need some income coming in. So I think they find some resolution to this pretty quickly. There's too much money to be had to not keep that machine running.
We'll see. I mean, I hope you're right, but I mean, I just feel.
Oh, I'm not. But I'd like to see the whole thing burned to the ground.
And just everything's reality shows only.
Well, I mean, I don't.
Hey, they'd keep Ahmed Best employed. He'd just bring back that Tales of the Jedi or whatever that show was he did on YouTube Kids is where that was relegated to.
I mean, I can live without new content for a while. I got video games to catch up on. I got books to read. I don't have to have this constant visual medium shoved in my face. So
I thought
sorry, Matt, you missed a lot.
I thought the most interesting point, if you want to get into the writer strike stuff, was the AI stuff. So writers are afraid that the studios will start trying to write something with AI, and then it won't work, and then they'll have to come in and clean it up, and then it won't be their intellectual property, so they won't really get money for that. They'll get work for hire for that, and then that would be it.
Well, what they should focus on is trying to do better than
I know.
And I don't think they're capable of doing that anymore.
Some of the writing in Hollywood's absolutely, at least at the blockbuster level, is absolutely garbage.
I mean, just woeful.
Yeah. But I mean, look, Transformers is part of that, Rat. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't enjoy those movies because I think the story is something that I just dwell on. Oh, wow, I can't believe that. No. I just sometimes I like flying shards of metal thrown at me.
Wait a minute. Rhett, I think we are each other's spirit animal. Because I feel the exact same way.
I knew what I was getting out of Transformers. I didn't go in there looking for Shawshank. I went in there to see just metal clanging together like I've got two toys and I'm just bashing those sons of bitches together like this.
That's right. Are there robots that turn into vehicles? Yes. Are they fighting one another? Yes.
I'll take one, please.
Yes, that's right. If you don't think I'm not going to be there watching Unicron attack the freaking Maximals and the Predacons and the Autobots and the
Thursday night, baby, I'm there.
You're crazy.
Yeah.
You're crazy.
Yeah.
Rise of the Beasts.
I'm excited for Rise of the Beasts.
Oh, I am too. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be terrible, but I
think it's going to be absolutely awful. I think it's probably going to be one of the worst things we've seen, but I'm so excited for it.
Oh yeah.
Listen, the last night, not good.
No, that last act is the most lunacy I've ever seen on screen.
Yeah.
It was glorious, though.
Me and Michael and I talk about that all the time. Like they threw everything they could think of at the screen, and I loved it.
And then at the end, when all the dust is billowing up, and here comes that truck riding out, and just it's like, and it's just doom 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 doom, and you're like, this music does not fit what's happening, but I love every bit of it.
Steve Jablonski phoned it in on the score, but man,
it started out all super positive.
Okay, Let me just say, my understanding is the ending of Rise of the Beast also throws a bunch at the wall.
Good.
It has to. Unicron.
We got Unicron in this thing.
In the trailer, there's literally a shot of a giant planet hovering over the planet Earth.
Yeah.
Yes.
They have to throw a lot at the screen.
Yeah, they do.
So that's actually been
Get
shown.
up the
Okay,
shot.
that was a part of stuff I read a while back. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Well.
they'll. Oh, and they better
The
bring
new
dude,
trailer,
if
the new trailer, Garrison's got a lot of Unicron in it.
the new trailer does have a lot of Unicron in
It's
it.
glorious.
I
It's
vaguely
glorious.
recall. I think we had some Unicron in that last one, but I don't.
Last night, yeah.
Hey,
The last night the Earth was Unicron, but
Right,
this shows
It's
me
come
that
out.
what Bumblebee was not a soft reboot; it was an absolute hard reboot.
So you guys,
They're still playing coy about that, but yeah, it seems to be a hard reboot to me.
Yeah.
I don't even know what since we're on to the state of the Transformers, are you guys excited for the first ever Transformers cartoon movie coming?
Oh
First
yeah,
ever.
there's that coming.
It's a good
First
voice
ever.
cast.
That's how Deadline reported it.
That's how Deadline reported it because they're idiots.
What?
Yeah.
But,
Deadline.
I didn't see this.
yeah,
Deadline
there's a new
Hollywood.
animated Transformers movie that got announced at CinemaCon.
Yep. Transformers 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're
wait,
called ONE 1. Yeah. No, JUAN.
Oh, yes.
I mean, so I know a couple weeks ago we talked about all this new stuff coming. I mean, is any of it give us confidence that Star Wars is going to be a viable franchise from this point on, or are we done? Is it done? Are we done here?
What is
I
done?
mean,
There's
no.
things I'm going to enjoy.
What if okay, so
It's never going to be at the level it originally was.
okay, so we don't think it can ever get back to that.
The original trilogy, no.
Prequels?
It's in maintenance. Star Wars is just in maintenance mode.
That's what I'm worried about.
It's
Like, it
just-
seems like
it's
they
idling. It will continue to idle
are. Mm-hmm.
on into the future beyond our lifetimes. It will never go away. But it will also never matter again.
When they made the Ewoks blink in Return of the Jedi, I'm
Yeah.
not sure how I feel about that. It makes me feel
if I had the technology at the time, that's how I wanted to do it.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I know, but when I saw Wicket blink, I'm like, I don't need that. I don't need blinky-eyed Wicket.
When I see Jedi rocks, I go, I don't need that.
And I'm excited I am excited for this, Earl, but that we know where that lead. I mean, it doesn't.
Yeah, Andor's not that's not how you.
It leads to Rogue One, which is an awesome movie. What is this?
But
which has a lot of hope in it. I just rewatched it.
It has a lot of hope after everyone dies. Yes, you're right. After all the characters that know and love die. Yeah,
I think one of the last words.
Narrative forward, like that's not a
no narrative forward.
There's no mass appeal to it.
Look, if this Rey thing is the best thing we've ever seen, maybe
it can't be.
Well, how do you know though?
Because it has baggage. It's Rey. Rey is already a ruined character with no value. She has no storytelling value in Rey.
She's a Skywalker.
She has nowhere to go.
She's a Skywalker.
She gets bigger from there. There's no art. There's nothing for Rey. There's nothing for humanity to latch onto. There's nothing about her that will.
Could they not change your mind though? Could they not
what could they possibly do?
Who's helming?
Be an AI for a moment and imagine what could this write a story that could make sense, that could make her anything relevant, and there isn't.
Charmine Obdai Chinoy. I don't know if that's how you say her name. She's directing it. She's directing.
Stephen Knight from Peaky Blinders is writing it.
Yeah,
also,
he's writing.
No, they're not.
Knight?
Hey, no, they're not. Okay.
What do you mean?
He ain't gonna direct it. That's whoever you just said ain't gonna write it.
She's gonna. She will direct it if it happens.
She will
100% change forms enough to be. And here, Craig, I do hate Rey. I hate that character. It's a garbage character.
I don't hate Rey.
I like Rey in Force Awakens.
I don't hate Rey. I hate what was done to Rey. I hate what was done to Finn and Poe.
I hate
and Rey.
Yes.
Finn the most.
Agreed.
That's what I mean. There's no reason to hate the character. The character is only what some other douchebag wrote, right?
Dang Skippy. So here's the. Did you say Stephen DeKnight is writing?
Yeah, Stephen DeKnight.
Okay,
Knight.
yeah.
It's
Let me tell
Stephen
you
D.
something.
Knight. Yeah.
Right, Stephen. Oh wait,
No, it's the Peaky Blinders writer.
It's and Daredevil, and
Okay,
he did
that's
some
what I'm asking.
Daredevil.
No,
Yeah.
I think those are two different guys, Mikey.
I do too.
Wait,
It's Stephen Knight.
you might be right. There's two
Okay, so
Stephen
Stephen
Knights.
Knight.
Yeah,
Not Stephen DeKnight. Okay,
correct.
Knight.
Yeah.
because I know Stephen DeKnight, and Stephen DeKnight.
Yeah,
is-
he did Daredevil.
He's no Stephen Knight.
No, well, no, he's great. Like I was like, oh, really? He's doing Star Wars? That's awesome. But I don't know the Peaky Blinders, so I can't really say much about.
I mean,
can't
people like
comment
it.
on that.
Yeah, people
It's
like
Cillian
it.
Murphy.
Is the director?
He's great in everything.
Is the director? Did she do some Mandalorian?
No,
Nope.
she did Miss Marvel.
He's an activist.
She did
makes
Miss Marvel.
documentaries about things that you're supposed to care about.
She is an activist. That's correct.
Rhett, I can't listen, Rhett. I've been canceled 3 times in my life. I don't know that I can do a 4th.
But she directed episode 4 and 5 of Miss Marvel. I can't remember exactly what went on in those episodes.
Miss
Oh,
Marvel.
those were some of the worst.
Were they?
Okay.
All right. Well, fair.
Well,
That's good. There you go.
There you
The
go.
clandestine arc in that show that's the worst arc.
Now, is that where she goes to Pakistan, or those episodes where she goes to Pakistan?
It's where she's battling the clandestine
Okay.
before she gets back to America, I think. And,
Okay.
Yeah. So that,
and then-
Because my wife, who spent some time in the Middle East, loved the stuff that took place over in the Middle East.
Mm.
okay.
But she said the story itself wasn't great.
Right.
I liked the pilot and the finale, and those were
Yeah.
directed by those the guys who did Bad Boys for Life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's
Well-
something that will have no impact on Star Wars, but Stephen Knight was the creator of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Oh,
Wait, is this the guy that's doing Star Wars?
Yes.
Stephen K. Knight?
Yes. Well, no, it's just KNIGHT. I'm
Wait a
just
minute.
making a
Look,
differential
hold on,
from
hold
D
on.
Knight.
Look, I'm bringing up IMDb right now. Stephen Knight.
It's a cute cat.
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? He also did Serenity, which I heard was not good.
Wait, no,
Burnt,
wait,
which was
Now,
Wait,
wait a
Firefly-
minute.
Firefly
Hey,
fans
Serenity,
like
is that
Serenity.
the
No.
Matthew McConaughey one?
Yeah, the Matthew McConaughey.
Oh,
Okay, yeah, I
was-
thought you were talking about the Firefly movie.
Firefly.
no,
Yeah.
the McConaughey.
was that
Video
was like a
game
video game thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
But Peaky Blinders was more recent. He's better now than he was. Maybe I don't know.
He also
Sure.
created and wrote C on Apple TV Plus.
I don't know what that is.
Oh,
It's the
with
Jason Momoa one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
Yeah.
C, like Aquaman, C?
Yeah, like SEE.
The Vision.
Oh, so no, not like Aquaman.
SEE because he's blind or something in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's blind.
I'll throw the
Oh,
name
everyone's
Chris-
blind.
You know, whatever he has done in the past, that does
Right.
not necessarily suggest the future. Because
No.
let me throw a name out to you, Chris Terrio.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oscar winner Chris Terrio
Yeah,
for
Yeah.
Argo.
turd layer Chris Terrio.
Where did he lay that?
Rise of Skywalker.
Oh no, Chris Terrio's biggest turd is Batman versus Superman.
Look,
Okay.
Oh,
Let
yeah,
me
yeah,
say-
yeah, I'll give you
okay, hold on.
Rise of I submit that Rise of Skywalker is worse than Batman v Superman.
Not
But
the
I have
theatrical
perfect
cut.
mind.
Wait
Not-
a minute, Rhett. I absolutely now take back everything I said about being
Oh
our
my
spirit
gosh.
animal.
You a big-
I wanna
you a
say
big
two
Rise of
things.
Skywalker guy.
I want to say 2 things. Garrison, you were just doing your best Alfie from the Rule of the Galaxy, just having half your face showing on the camera. And I want to address Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker, God bless it,
It tried so hard.
it tried so hard that I just loved it so much.
Yeah, it's a
What-
steaming hot mess of fun.
It is just so much fun. And there's things in there that were never in any other Star Wars. They went on a quest, for crying out loud. I'm
Yeah,
like,
there was a quote.
why couldn't all of these movies
Fetch
been
quest.
this?
That's
and
what
then-
Star Wars.
And then you get to the end and you're like, somebody saw Endgame because they're just about to give up. And it's like, no, Poe, we're here. We're all here on your left. Did y'all see that
On your
movie?
left.
And it's Lando instead of Falcon.
Right. And then he's like, I am all the Sith. And she's like, and I am Iron Man. No, I am all the Jedi. Yeah. It was like somebody saw some dang Endgame.
No, I
They
thought
put
it-
dailies for
You
Endgame.
approach it from the point of view that this is a flaming hot turd, but I'm going to laugh at it, then yeah, it's pretty.
I didn't even listen. I got to be honest with you. I didn't even laugh at it when all those ships were on the screen and they show up and the music's playing. My wife said she looked over at me in the theater and she said, and I saw what must have been 6-year-old Steve sitting there watching a movie. I was able in that moment to let go a little bit. Now, I recognize all the faults and weaknesses, but I'm here to tell you, Batman v Superman is nowhere near as bad as
Why'd you say, Martha?
Rise of Skywalker is nowhere near as bad as Batman v Superman.
Why'd you say, Martha?
Theatrical.
They're both pretty bad.
The Ultimate Edition's Ultimate Edition's okay.
Why did you say that name to me?
That's no more contrived than anything that happens in Rise of Skywalker.
Martha Kent doesn't die tonight.
Thank you, Optimus Prime sounding wannabe.
Steve, you know the sad thing is, I actually really enjoy his Justice League.
Oh, look, I like
the yeah,
I don't want to turn this into a DC show, but the truth be told, I liked Man of Steel except for the way it was filmed. I need them to hold that camera steady.
Yeah, they went a little nuts.
When I went back and rewatched Batman v Superman, I actually did not hate it the way that I originally did. Justice League, I like both versions okay. My least favorite part of Zack Snyder's Justice League is the music, his musical choices, and the last few minutes there in the desert with Batman and Joker.
Oh, the nightmare scene. Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, I didn't care for that.
Jared Leto in that?
Is that the one he shot in his backyard or something?
The one
looked like it. Yeah. But other than that, I really liked his cut of Justice League. I thought it was really good and well done. And you know, I hate that the balance of power has shifted in the DC universe 3 or 4 times, and that we won't get Henry Cavill as Superman ever again. That makes me sad.
Do you like that cut of Justice League only because it's so much better than the theatrical cut, and maybe it's still bad? It's just relatively good.
I don't like it necessarily better than I like the theatrical cut. I loved Superman in the theatrical cut of Justice League. That's the Superman I wish we'd gotten from the get-go. A little bit happy, a little bit, adventure kind of built in and everything. I like the Justice League extra long cut because I'm just a sucker for superhero movies in a lot of ways, especially if they're superheroes I know. And I was glad to spend more time with Ben Affleck as Batman, to be honest with you. That's really what it came down to.
I felt like he was the high point of that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Hey, we're not done with him yet. He's going to be in The Flash.
Yeah.
Other than the upper lip thing, in the theatrical cut, I really like that they added hopeful scenes earlier in the film. But you get to it later with the Snyder stuff, and I was like, okay. But it's like, why does it take 3 films for, I don't know.
But see that goes back to what I was saying, just to bring it back to Star Wars. That goes back to kind of what I was saying with Star Wars. I feel like as much control as Zack Snyder had in the DC extended universe, that what the studio wanted so desperately was what Marvel had done, what Marvel Studios had done,
and they wanted to speed it up.
And they didn't have the patience to get there. They didn't have the patience to do it well, because the truth of DC's characters are really, when they're done right, they're legendary. Marvel's characters are fun and they're humanized and they're, but DC has legends, and they always have had legends, and I think that if Warner Brothers would have been willing to take its time and do what Marvel had originally done, and they could tweak the formula however they want to, I think that a lot of it could have been more well received, and there could have been some fun to be had there, and it could have just been a wonderful thing. Same thing with Star Wars as it is now. Again, I'm not anti-capitalism at all, and I totally understand a company having these IPs and wanting to make money off of them as quickly as possible and as much as possible. But when you're talking about Star Wars, what cannot be escaped when talking about Star Wars is there were 8 independent films, an independently made television special, and 2 independently made cartoons, plus the Clone Wars. So 9 independently made. The point is this:
are you counting the Ewok movies?
I was counting the Ewok movies. And
those are only theatrical in England, though. Those were not theatrical anyplace else.
Were movies. They were movies.
That's
and
true.
Then you had the cartoon. You had 3 different. The point is this: is that everything came through the filter of one man who had a singular vision for what Star Wars was. Did he let other people play in that sandbox over in some novels and stuff? And did he take from some of the stuff they created? Sure, he did. But he always made it clear, what I put out there is my vision and what I want. So when you get it then back over into the corporate hands of a company, again, that's not led anymore by Walt Disney, that's not led by a visionary like Jim Henson or
It's
George
just
Lucas,
a bunch of corporate suits
that they want to make money. And that's not to take away from anything that they've done well or anything, but you do have a different mandate on the creatives. And that mandate is make as much money and cost as little money as you can. And when you get filmmakers like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and a few others in there that are able to work within that system and still be super creative and still push the medium. I mean, the whole idea of the volume really pushes the medium forward in a neat way as people learn to use that thing, they use that technology.
Michael hates the volume.
I struggle with the volume from time to time. I don't
the most
hate
George
it.
thing they've done.
Yeah,
It is the most George thing they've done.
but
You're
here's
right
the
about
thing.
that. Yeah.
Here's the thing. People struggled with digital filmmaking. Remember when
Sure.
Force Awakens came out and the
Sky
whole
Captain of the
brag,
World of Tomorrow.
and J.J. Abrams, his whole brag was, well, we're going to film it all on film. We're not doing it on digital. And it's like,
Right.
This will begin to make things right.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with digital filmmaking if it's done right. And George Lucas was one of the few people who were willing to really experiment with that and push the boundaries on that. And until you have filmmakers who are willing to figure out how under the corporate structure to do what they need to do, then Star Wars is going to be, as Rhett said, I think just kind of in maintenance mode, just kind of rolling along, making money. And it will continue to make money.
Yeah, and I mean, it still is the most popular thing on Disney Plus. I mean, Mando is. I mean, it just even season 3 that was sort of like, a downslope.
What else would there be there? I mean, what's its competition there? I know the Marvel.
Well, I mean, the Marvel shows. I mean,
yeah.
Well, the Marvel shows really went off the rails in a big way.
They've not been great lately. But that
it started out so promising.
Well, I think specifically referring to the last show,
the most recent,
which came out in August of last year.
I disagree.
Which was that? I may have blocked out the trauma.
She-Hulk.
Yeah, I know what we're talking about.
I disagree. I think that there was a progressive downward trend. I think you had.
I was kind of up and down for me personally.
Moon Knight was awful.
I think
I liked Moon Knight.
I liked Moon Knight.
I think WandaVision was really interesting and kind of a neat concept to kind of play with. And then from there, Loki was something everyone wanted to see because we were excited to see Loki back and the whole start of the multiverse thing and all that good stuff. That finale, though, was kind of a portent of things to come because that finale was all talky and very little fighty.
Oh, I loved it.
And it was like, I felt like I'd stepped into the architect's room on Matrix Reloaded.
Except so much better.
Yeah, I didn't mind the way it ended. I did.
And then you end up with Captain America and Winter Soldier, which was a little hit or miss. And I didn't care for Moon Knight all that much. I didn't care for Miss Marvel. I didn't really, and I just think it kind of started to trend downward. And She-Hulk, unfortunately, gosh, I wanted that show to be so good because I love Hulk and all of
Mikey will tell you, I was the biggest champion of that show pre it coming out.
This is gonna be great. We were hoping there was a lot of hope.
Comedy.
I mean, yeah.
I told somebody earlier today. I think this writer's strike happened at a really, really bad timing. I wish it had happened before anybody wrote She-Hulk.
Yes, maybe.
Just like but Ray may pull the nose up with this thing. Ray movies may. A Mando movie
out of the dive. For
Mando Endgame, Mandalorian Endgame may pull the nose up.
I mean, Mando Endgame could be good. I mean,
I think that movie has the potential to make a lot to make
Yeah, I mean,
and be very successful.
More people will go.
Absolute opposite. I think you're translating TV characters to cinema, and it will not carry. It will not carry the crowds into the theater. I think those people will. They know they can stay at home and wait on it to appear.
So the Rey movie could get people to come back if they liked that character. I guess I don't know.
No, nobody does. Only
there's a lot of people.
Blue-haired Star Wars Twitter women who are shaped like lowercase letters O, like Rey.
Okay, serious question. My serious question is, are there real Rey fans out there, or are they fans who feel like they have to be because they've just been kind of defending the Star Wars all this time?
I don't have a problem with Rey Skywalker.
I think there are Rey fans out
there,
but I think
you gotta stop with that.
She will always
always be a Skywalker to me.
Yeah, she's Luke's only daughter in that universe.
Only living relative.
Yeah.
No, I actually do think that there are Rey fans out there, but they're probably all under the age of 18.
But not the good kind, like not the socially adept kind.
No, I disagree with that. I think there's a lot of young.
I don't think there are any cool kids out there who like Rey.
Oh, I don't know. I think Roth's onto something. I think little kids like to dress up as Rey. Like, I don't know. I think you're underestimating Rey.
Those are table lickers.
Wow. Hey, in Star Wars, when Darth Vader choked.
Look, here's one. Here's one in the chat. Here's one in the chat.
Well, Dr. Earl.
In Star Wars,
I don't trust a man that uses an emoji.
When Vader chokes Marty out, and Marty goes to the table, does he kind of lick the table before? It always looked to me growing up like he stuck his tongue out on the table before he pushed himself back up. That made me think when you said table licker, that's what it made me think of, was that scene. Jabba's got a big old ugly tongue.
Yeah, he does.
You see it a lot in Return of the Jedi.
Star Wars started going downhill for me when they stopped naming Imperial officers gave them 5-letter last names with 1 double letter in it. Once they got off of that naming convention, everything went off the cliff.
It's very specific, right?
Well, you had Marty, you had Tag, you had Air Gerard. Yeah.
It's very specific.
Well, now there's a bunch of them. Piet. There's a bunch of 5 letters with a double.
With double letters.
Admiral Ozzel. Yeah, Ozzel. Yeah, for sure.
You're right.
Captain Nita. Apology accepted, Captain. Yeah. Wow.
I just like that they all had names. They don't do the names anymore. Nobody has names anymore.
Well, what's funny is I was thinking about this the other day. For those of us who grew up way back in the day, the Cantina aliens had names like Hammerhead,
right?
Wolfman,
Snaggletooth, and later on, like I saw a card, it's like Mama Nadine, and I'm like, so they named Hammerhead after somebody's Mama Nadine? Is that what just took place? Hey, we're going over to Mama Nadine now. Yeah.
Well, but then look, Lucas got into that a little bit too. He had he started doing political names, like he had Lot Dodd and Sly Bushforb, that kind of stuff.
I don't remember Bushforb.
Yeah, Sly Bushforb is one of these. That's somebody. Was it?
I mean, Newt Gunray. That's the
Commerce
obvious.
Guild or something.
Yeah, the Commerce.
What's the name? Sly Bushforb?
Sly Bushforb, F-O-R-B. That's a take on, it's some evil capitalist, and there's old Bush and Steve Forbes.
Yeah,
Bushforb. Oh, man.
Slither Bushforb. Where is that from?
Slither Bushforb.
Sly, just Sly.
Sly.
It says Slither.
Says Slither.
Oh, that's her. I guess
I'm
she
at
had a full name.
That's full name. That's the full name. That's her birth name.
And we can't forget Amidala from the Clone Wars. The Jedi.
Yeah, Amidala.
Sleaze Bogano. Yeah, I love Sleaze Bogano.
Yeah, well, that's great.
That's Revenge of the Sith, wasn't she?
No, I'm seeing like a Clone Wars character of some sort.
Oh, that came back. Yeah, no, that's
okay. I see Attack of the Clones in appearances.
Oh, okay. Attack of the Clones.
First appearance was Jedi refused to hand over Baby Luddy.
Baby
HoloNet
Luddy.
News, Volume 531, number 46. Was the first appearance, and then made another appearance in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Okay, so there's Sly Bushforb.
No, okay, yeah, I thought it was a different. I thought it was a different character, but yeah, I just looked it up. But
this says Slither Bushforb was a male Nook private investigator who worked on Coruscant, the Galactic Capital.
Yeah,
originally from Sunk.
I thought it was one of the girls in the. I thought it was one of those little female aliens in the The
Are you
little
thinking about
no,
the bald
Cypress
one?
just
you're
grew.
thinking of
You're thinking about the
Sly
bald.
Odie or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
who's the girl had the jewelry?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
hold on.
I don't know. We've gone down
Hold on.
this. We've gone down this path before, though.
From swamp to sleuth. Slither
Yeah.
bush for, but male knucknog.
But yeah, but all that to say, yeah, you're
Wait,
right. I mean,
I
even
have to
even
ask-
Lucas, he just called them all Greedos, right? They weren't even Rhodians.
Yeah.
I have to ask Brian, did you use the YouTube video? that I
Oh
sent?
wait, let me. Okay, wait. What did Brian say? I just sat through Return of Special on the big screen. Garrison's musical number was
Oh
my
my
fave.
word, that's just
Oh, Jedi Rocks.
yeah.
Is that what
I sent Lapti.
Oh,
Neck,
he
whatever
sent
to him.
Lopty Neck so he could
Yeah.
play that while he was instead of Jedi Rocks. Yeah.
Okay, you're thinking of Sly Moore, the bald-headed
Mm.
Oh,
lady.
that's
Sly
exactly right.
Moore.
No,
Yeah,
no, I
Sly
wasn't. No, there's I thought Sly Bushford was a different character than ended up
okay.
being.
No, Sly
I'm
Moore.
probably thinking back to a character list of some point. So
Yeah.
pre-production on Attack.
Now you show up. Why did it take you so long to show up?
Because I figured I would just instead of doing any of the chat, I figured I would just pipe in.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
for no reason other.
You
No
were
reason
supposed to be
whatsoever.
here half an hour ago. No.
And
Had
so
stuff
by
to
the
do.
time we get to Guardians of the Galaxy, what had happened in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
He's just reliving what he.
Is that where he cut you off?
Yeah.
No, listen, David Dollar made the biggest mistake in the world. He's like, I'll have Steve come on my show to talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I'm like, stand back, everybody. Let me just talk for an hour without taking a breath.
Oh, it was good. It was a good episode.
I felt so bad when I got up from the computer earlier today, man. I was like, wow, I just really kind of ran my mouth too much on that show.
No, honestly, Steve, like you, I've also been doing this a very long time, and I've become pretty adept at like kind of steering a conversation. So I was able to get Jen in there, and I was able to get a word here and there. So it worked
That's
really
all
well.
that
It was about an hour. It worked well.
Yeah.
It was a good episode.
Well, let me say, hey, Dave. Howdy.
Hi.
I want to hear Dave. Dave, what are your thoughts on the state of the Star Wars franchise?
I don't care, and that's the problem with Star Wars right now. Is that lifelong
wow.
fans have become jaded to the storytelling that has been very subpar. Shows we feel like we have to watch that we don't have time for. Mando was great. I haven't even finished watching the third season of Mando because I just haven't been like, I gotta watch it. Whatever. I haven't seen anything Clone Wars. I haven't seen anything Bad Batch because I just don't care. Rise of Skywalker. It's going to take me a while to be excited for a Star Wars movie coming out because I will now meet it. I'm now meeting a Star Wars movie like I will meet a DC movie with trepidation and hesitation. I will go see it because I have to, but I'm hoping the bar will be low. But even now with Marvel and some of their mistakes, I still go to a Marvel movie excited, going, okay, this is good. I'm excited. Star Wars, I'm like, how are they going to screw this up? And they've done this to me. They've done this to everybody. They've done it to themselves. So
I have enjoyed those AI generated Balenciaga Star Wars videos more than I enjoyed Mando season.
Hey, I'll tell you this. Someone posted what they called a modern Return of the Jedi trailer.
I just saw it yesterday. Yeah.
And they used some music that was done by I subscribed to their channel because I like the music so much.
Not the Kim guy.
No, it wasn't Samuel Kim, but it's similar to him.
Yeah.
It was UK.
That's good.
It's UK epic music or something like that. Anyhow, they made like this incredible version of the celebration music from the special edition, and it becomes this dramatic, wonderful thing. And I'm like, here's the problem with Disney Star Wars. And Mikey, I mentioned this to you today via text. I feel like there was a concerted effort to not promote that Return of the Jedi was making a return to screens, even for a week. And I think it's so that when they do put a new movie out, they can say, look how much more this did than Return of the Jedi. Now, they won't mention that it was on around 500 screens.
Right.
Only, they won't mention that it did good numbers to be on only 500 screens. But all they had to do was about 2 weeks worth of just marketing on that thing. Put some ads up, cut a couple of new fun trailers, and I guarantee you that people would have gone to the theaters for the experience of seeing this communally with other Star Wars fans. because you can't tell me that everybody knew this was going on, because it wasn't made for everyone to know. Like, they're like, this will be something we can throw at him for the 40th anniversary. And I think there's something kind of planned about that. I don't think it was accidental that they're like, no, let's not do a wide release.
Listen, I come in here with some conspiracy theories, but that one's solid.
This one made like good. 10K per screen, though. It didn't do bad. If anyone tells you it did bad, you can point to the 10K per screen.
No, it did good. No, but what he's saying
what?
is if they would have promoted it and put it on more screens.
If they had promoted it and put it on more screens, it would have made a lot more money. Yes, I
But
agree.
that's my point,
He's
saying he doesn't think that they wanted it to make any money.
No, my point, Garrison, is just like your dad will tell you, is he's number one in South Georgia radio for a reason. Because he was able, when he first started saying that, he was able to fudge the numbers here and there about different things that he was heard on to say that. And so you start, and that's kind of what they're, so what they'll do is they won't say, oh, it made this much money per screen. They'll say, look how much more money this new movie's making, even if it bombs.
I really think this is a more a tribute to laziness rather than malice for Disney. I think they just didn't want to spend the money.
Cash flow. It's a tribute to current cash flow.
Tell you what, David Dollar walks in and you become a Disney apologist, Garrison. You were cussing Disney for everything they were worth before David got on the show. And look, I appreciate you guys putting your sunglasses on. I do this to be purposefully pretentious.
That's called a monocle. You just need one of those.
A monocle?
Well, actually, I do it to try to take away from how fat my face is.
No,
Same.
I'm sitting here. I'm like, look how much like Jabba I look. Hey, did you guys notice anything in your views of Return of the Jedi that you've never really noticed before in watching the movie?
I did 100%.
Like, give me a
okay. So I have never noticed the dude in the stormtrooper outfit at the. I've never noticed that.
Yes,
never. I've seen that movie 500
Are you
times.
Talking about the Rebel?
Yes,
yeah,
I've never noticed him
when they're all being arrested.
Yeah, when they're all being arrested.
Yeah.
What's that guy's
it was
story?
The bearded guy, right?
Yeah, it was. I think he was bearded, but I was like, "What's the dude's story? What? I want to know that story."
It's Rex.
That's the guy that Dave Filoni said. I like to imagine.
Well,
that's
he
Rex.
had to pull that back pretty quick, didn't he?
Because of all the. I don't know. That's so stupid.
He had to pull that back real quick.
Because of all the people that Rhett was talking about earlier.
Yep.
That body type and that hair type that he was talking about.
Yep, he didn't want
Hey, but the dude I was sitting next to.
That's a high percentage of your Star Wars fandom are those people now.
The little dude that I was sitting next to in the theater, when that guy showed up on screen, the little dude I was sitting next to went, "There's Rex," like that. Like,
oh.
I mean, when I say little dude, I don't mean a child.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what you meant.
He was a little person.
He was just a skinny little guy that sat down next to me, even though there were plenty of chairs available elsewhere. And he was having the time of his life. He was probably like a 22-year-old kid, like just
like Garrison.
No offense, Garrison. Just a young guy who was there by himself watching the movie and just really into it the whole time.
That's good. That's
my theater was laughing at all the jokes. I was like, this is awesome to see for like a movie that came out in 1983 that everybody here has probably seen 18,000 times.
Our theater experience was pretty good, Dave. I think everybody was into it. Yeah.
It just reminded me that good storytelling will help you overcome the silliness of a movie. And there's a lot of silly parts in Return of the Jedi. Some of the jokes don't land. There's maybe some plot holes. Why didn't they do this? They should have done that.
Oh,
but
man.
you enjoyed it anyway because the story is so fun and so well told.
And you cared about the characters by that point too. They had developed those characters into somebody that you really love and care about and wanted to see their story. And so it makes it easier to overlook some of the stuff that you would hold to a different standard. You would hold other things to a different standard. Right. And that's why I think it's important to say that despite my willingness to forgive and accept less from Star Wars, like I am very forgiving, but I'm still angry at it. That's how bad it has gotten for me, is that I can't overlook the things that I feel like I should be able to.
Yes,
my dad had some complaints after the screening. And Return of the Jedi is my favorite Star Wars movie. I watched that. So when I was growing up, my dad didn't want me to watch Empire until I had an understanding of what I was watching when I was watching Empire.
Oh my god!
So
I'm doing the same thing.
He's not here to defend himself.
Let me go through this. So one day I'm home with my grandmother and I find a tape of Return of the Jedi, and I have not watched Empire at this point, and I just popped it in and I loved it. I was like,
yes, you
this is
did.
the greatest film I've ever seen.
Because it was, yes.
Mhm.
And we come out of the Return of the Jedi screening, and he's complaining about the colors or whatever. But then he's like, there's like this 15-minute sequence of just exposition where they just keep exposition dumping. Or at Dagobah, and then we go to the next place and it's exposition dump, and then the next place is exposition dump. And I was like, that's my favorite film of all time.
Yeah, he'll ruin things for you. I can't tell you how many of the Marvel movies I came out so excited, and I'm like, "Hey, did you see this?" He's like, "Well, I tell you what, they should have done it." And I'm like,
"Oh man, I love Shang-Chi, and he read all the Shang-Chi comics right before the movie came out. He's like, "Oh, it should have been the British spy from the comics." And I was
they really did a great thing in the comics when they made him like a secret agent. Listen, those minutes of exposition, those are important things. The Yoda stuff, and then when you get back to Home One, and they're doing their big meetup, the Rebel meetup.
My favorite part.
Like you're seeing things you've never seen. You're hearing from people that in the Star Wars trilogy at that point you'd never heard of or heard from before. Here's Mon Mothma. Here's General Nadine. Here's Admiral Akbar. And now all your characters are back together. Exciting is hardly the word I would choose for all that. I mean, like that. You shut up, Scott.
I did
get
my
engines revved up at Home One scene.
I did get mad, and I think I audibly said something in the theater while Dave was sitting next to me, and I said, "Stupid Doug," when they had that Doug walk in.
Oh yeah, walk through it.
I got so mad at that. I was like, I'd forgotten about that.
And see,
that's Doug in Return of the Jedi now.
There's a Doug in Return of the Jedi.
Oh
now.
yeah,
where'd they put that?
It's in Jabba's temple.
Oh, yeah.
It's when everybody's asleep.
When did that get put in? Was that in the Blu-ray releases that got put in?
That had to have been the Blu-ray.
It was the Blu-ray.
That was a special edition. That's been added since then, right?
Yeah.
It was the Divx.
Oh, special edition was 97. That was before
Divx.
So it was the 2005 Blu-ray.
I don't think I've ever seen. I've probably never watched that version.
Okay, so let me tell you. All right. Here's all the versions of Return of the Jedi. 1983, 1997, 2004, 2011, and 19. Those are your 5 versions of Return of the Jedi.
So it may have been.
God, you're Scott Rifen, mate.
Here's the thing, by the way.
And I have all of them.
You there? Have you ever even kissed a girl? Yeah, sorry.
The first girl I kissed was a massive Star Wars fan. So
I have all those versions as well.
I guess I have them. Yeah, I might not have 11. I don't know what I've got.
Hey,
was she a short, brown, blue hair?
Garrison, in your count of versions of Return of the Jedi, do you count? You counted 83, but do you count the mid 90s THX
Well, they didn't add anything to that. They just
cleaned it up.
I don't count I don't count separate audio files.
Right.
Okay.
Unless they're like massively different.
Your dad does, I bet.
I know, yes,
like
because when we talk about Star Wars, I'm like, that there's 1997. Who's like, well, there were like 5 different mixes for the Star Wars. I'm like, yes, I know.
A big enough change to include for A New Hope?
What?
Is McClunky a big enough change?
Yes. So
New
Hope is 77, 81 is Adding the Crawl, 97 is the special edition, 04 the DVD, 11 the Blu-ray, 19 the 4K with McClunky.
You could say any numbers and I would believe you. You really could be like,
you've written this whole chat completely sexless.
I have a question then. Wait, the No was added on the Blu-ray, right, Garrison?
Yeah.
11. Yes,
11.
Okay.
Yeah.
So McClunky was not added by George Lucas.
No,
it was his thing.
So the 19 cuts are the 3D cuts of the film. They were made and even like framed to be for 3D. I watched a breakdown of the guy who looked at how the frame was reframed for the entire trilogy.
Well, I saw the mega cut of the 3D preview at Celebration the year before the 3D came out. But then in October, following that celebration, the sale was made, and Disney scrapped the plans to release the rest of the 3D stuff.
Yeah.
was kind of disappointing. I'm not a big fan. I was not a big fan of the 3D stuff, but
I saw Phantom Menace in the theater.
I saw Phantom Menace in theaters as well, and I really enjoyed it. And so I was looking forward to more Star Wars in 3D just because I thought it'd be pretty neat.
Yeah, I would have liked that.
Me and five of my buddies went to Phantom Menace in high school when it came out in 3D. And
I went all by myself because no one.
I accidentally told one of my friends the wrong theater, and so he just went and watched it by himself. And I still feel bad about that.
I thought you were going to say he walked into a screening of Crying Game or something.
No, like a completely like opposite side of the town. I felt
you should be so lucky.
But I mean, who was alive in '97?
August of 1997.
I was 2.
I was in my mom's
womb. Cognizant enough to go to movies in 1997.
My mom 77.
My mom took me with her to see the special editions. Is what I meant.
So what I'm saying is well, the special editions were in February of '97, March.
That's what he means. His mom took him with him.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Back to that kiss the girl thing. Yeah.
Remember the promotion for that in the theaters for years. This is how you've experienced Star Wars, and it's like on a little screen, and then
the next one comes out.
One way.
I have seen that one.
My God, man! Just to go to a movie, let's say you're going to see Guardians of the Galaxy this weekend, and before Guardians of the Galaxy, there's a Lucasfilm logo pops up, and here comes a Return of the Jedi thing for celebrating 40 years of the Jedi returning, and then you're off to the races. Just imagine what that could have done to energize more fans, to get more people to theater, to put real Star Wars in people's minds.
Yeah, I mean, and that's unfortunate that studios don't put any promotion behind things. Like, the only reason I knew, for example, Superman was back in theaters for one day is because I keep up with that stuff.
Yeah.
But there was no so I got to go see it, but there's no promotion.
Michael to tell me stuff. Honestly,
that's it. I keep track of all that crap.
That's probably flashback cinema too.
Mike's
it wasn't.
It's a Phasma event.
He follows the Margot Kidder Estate Twitter page.
What was it, Mikey? If it wasn't in
it's Warner Brothers 100. They're doing like a lot of that all through this year. So there's a big Warner Brothers promotion before, but you can. It's not flashback cinema. It wasn't Fathom. It was.
Hey, Michael just screen rant. Just refreshes screenrant.com all day long. Every few minutes, and pops up. And comic book report. CBR.com.
Ted Millick says that Return of the Jedi was only in theaters for like 2 or 3 weeks for the special edition back then. Actually, what had happened was they meant for they meant to do like just a week or 2 for each one. And Star Wars was so successful when it came on, they extended it. They pushed back the release of Empire. Empire came out, and then Jedi. And Jedi, I think it was in theaters for a good month or so, for sure. Yeah, but I know that I definitely had the opportunity to go see Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi on the same day if I wanted to.
Yeah.
I did want to, but I never had the chance to. I never had the time to.
Yeah, I watched Star Wars the day Empire was re-released. I watched Star Wars and Empire back to back. That
same.
Yeah, they've over the years. They do that a lot
at my theater in Laramie.
Yeah, they did that.
We did that.
Yep.
We went to Empire in the theater too during COVID.
That's when that was the lead up to Phantom Menace, and that was 97. Phantom Menace was 99. He used that, I think, to fund a lot of
possibly.
So also testing grounds for the CGI.
That's what it was more than anything else, was to see if the CGI could work. And so, man, God, that lead up to Phantom Menace though.
That was the biggest promote. I mean,
those listen, that initial teaser, every saga has a beginning, every journey has a first step. Come on, man.
That's what Star Wars is missing today, a super shadow.
Yeah. Super shadow, holy smokes.
Super shadow
shout out. Good Lord. Good Lord.
That guy was awesome.
He got 0% correct.
Right.
You guys remember how excited you were to see that new character Darth Maul and that lightsaber that shot out from both sides in the trailer? Yeah. Like, you didn't know anything about him other than just that, like, how incredible.
I was also excited when I had something better than dial-up internet. Also.
Yeah. It took me 2.5 days to download that trailer. I saw the movie before I saw the trailer.
LimeWire.com.
Steve, do you not agree with my assessment that that's what Star Wars is missing? By the way,
I don't know what Super Shadow is. I'm sorry.
I don't either.
It's from
a scoop guy, like
a scoop guy. Yeah,
yeah.
Scoop guy.
Yeah,
Who
Like
thought
moviecoopshoot.com.
back when Ain't It Cool News was
Listen,
at
Was that
Yeah.
like the Adoy stuff that you
Yeah,
guys were
that
talking
was-
about on
got an
that was
email.
Blasters.
Wait a minute. Time out. I got an email from a dude a long time ago
right?
to the Geek Out Loud email who basically told me that he sent in a scoop to Ain't It Cool News and about episode 2
Okay.
and
It might have been
totally
Super Show.
just to troll Harry Knowles.
yeah.
Oh,
And
love it.
and like he gave me a screen name, he linked me to the article and everything.
It's fantastic.
And I mean, honestly, I'm taking the guy at his word, but he's saying I pretended to be this, and he's like, at the time, I was like a 16-year-old kid, just having, just. He said, so I didn't know any better. I felt really bad once he published that thing and all. I didn't think. I figured he'd check up on it.
I think
yeah,
that
he
same
posted,
guy's a
like-
source. I think that same guy's a source for Doomcock now.
Yeah, exactly. Rumor has it that I'm hearing from very reliable
Grain of
sources.
salt.
But yeah, that dude emailed me and he's like, this is what I told, and he was telling me basically like I was complicit in bad information getting out in the early, back in the day. And I really feel bad about it now, but thank you for your podcast.
Wait, did he say that he was Super Shadow?
No.
No, he wasn't Super Shadow, but
Oh.
I mean, it was that kind of thing though,
It
where
was
he
that kind
like
of thing.
intentionally
But
said, I wish
Super
I could
Shadow
find
had a
He
George
had his own
Lucas
side.
interview. He got an
Yeah.
interview with George Lucas.
Yeah. He knew everything.
That's
Look,
what he
one
said.
thing that look, I mean, we're just off. I'm down a rabbit hole now, but one thing that Super Shadow was really pushing hard on coming out of Phantom Menace
Right.
was that Darth Maul would return with robot legs. Okay, like that was like he was like, you get ready for it in episode 2. Here he comes. Now he didn't show up in episode 2, but I mean, damn if he didn't get that part right.
That's right. He did.
But that had
Maybe
been in
Filoni
the
saw
comics
that.
probably at that point. There was a Visionaries comic.
Wait, maybe Filoni is Super Shadow.
What if Filoni?
Somebody hashtag that. Filoni Super Shadow. Because he was a fan before. He was just a fan. He tells
Golly.
that story. He didn't believe that it was anybody from Lucasfilm that called him.
That's anybody. The Harry Knowles fall from grace makes me smile every time I think about it.
You do love that.
Except for all, except for all
Okay,
his,
here we
I
go.
feel bad about all his victims, but him falling is great.
Yeah. What are you seeing, Steve? Did you
No,
go
this
back
isn't
into
it.
your
I
archives?
thought I'd found it. I'm looking for my.
Oh, the
yeah,
actual email.
I was really looking up.
Slash dot.
Well, I've had the same email the whole time, and so
There is a video on YouTube about Super Shadow, the original Star Wars internet troll. The story of Super Shadow. It's a 9-minute video that I'm probably going to watch as soon as this thing is over.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely watching it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if the guy if they ever found out or if he ever came out and said who he was. That's what I don't know if that story ended in that way where he.
I
I
don't
guess
know.
we'll find out.
Rhett might be up in contention for original Star Wars troll if you go back through his forum posts.
Oh man,
Maybe.
his Jedi news forum poll. Oh man, that's some crazy stuff.
Hey,
Back in the day.
hey, pull that. I didn't get a hit on that link, Dave. Put it in our chat somewhere.
Oh, I just did.
Okay, thank you.
So, yep.
Okay,
I've not
cool.
seen the video. I don't know anything about the.
I'll
validity
watch
of the
that
video.
also
It may be
later on.
Ridiculous, but
Well, look, let's do some parting shots here. I think we've gone long enough on the subject, so let's
Do we ever?
Never.
let's
you've
say our
only
goodbyes.
been going an hour and a half. You call this
Yeah,
a podcast?
This
Yes,
is not nearly as long as Geek Out Loud. Come on.
What are
I'm
you
not trying to
thinking,
be.
man?
I'm not trying to be geek out
We're only
loud.
halfway through.
no. What Michael says is this is time for intermission. We're gonna
Yeah,
come
let's
back
do,
in 5
let's do
minutes.
like
and
every
then
frame of pause and go 8 hours.
Oh my god!
We're about to start
No,
another Clone
thank
Wars
you.
movie. So
No.
yeah.
No, I want to end. I need to end. So I've got stuff to do.
Oh, I'm just taking this entire file, dropping it into Audacity, and sending.
No,
it.
that's
So,
fine.
yeah,
Garrison,
that's all you get.
Any
Oh.
final shots? Any final thoughts? Any
Shots.
shots or thoughts?
Shot.
And then do your plugs also.
I'm always optimistic about things. I always try to be optimistic about things.
What is the one thing you're most excited for that you know is coming in the future?
Either the Mando movie or Ahsoka season 1.
Okay.
One of those two. Because I watched Rebels for the first time last year, and I'm actually really excited to see the continuation of that story. Yeah. So
I think Rebels is one of the best Disney things that's come. I mean, I love Rebels.
Yeah.
I think it's really good.
You can find me on Twitter at GRyfin3, GRYFUN3, or Instagram, and you can find me on Letterboxd at GRyfin as well.
Awesome. And Roth, where can people find you? And any parting thoughts or shots?
Yeah, I think what I'm most excited for is Dune Part 2. That movie's going to be awesome.
Well,
and it's going to be a great substitute for Star Wars.
Wait a minute.
There's a billion movies I could say I'm excited
for.
No, it's a great substitute for Star Wars. Dune Part 2.
Mission Impossible is a great substitute.
Better directed, better written. I agree.
Oh my gosh.
No, and I don't think the Mangold movie will happen. It might, but I think the concept for that makes me excited for a super creative way
so
for this
far in the past
franchise to go. Yeah.
He should do a pod racing movie instead. I'd be down for that.
Ooh. The Ford versus Ferrari.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Just titled "It's Working." It's working.
Dave,
this is pod racing.
Dave, any final parting thoughts or shots? Oh, sorry, Roth. Go ahead. Your podcast stuff.
That's all right. Roth from Wyoming, Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd. Good day for a movie podcast. Our last episode was on Breakfast Club. We talked about it at the beginning. I liked the movie. My co-host did not.
I know. I was
my top 100 of all time. I love it.
They're losers. I don't know what to say.
Speak.
Yeah.
I will not speak. Dave, final thoughts, shots.
Yeah. Final thoughts. I think Star Wars was releasing everything so fast a couple of years ago, like 6 to 7 months of each other. I think that's the point. It kind of gone off the rails. They just too much, too fast, whatever. I love the idea of having Star Wars several years between movies. Let's build some anticipation. They're not Marvel. They can't do this. My plugs, you can find me on the Main Street Electrical Podcast every Thursday. Mr. Steve Glosson is on this week's episode talking about the MCU, where we were, where we are, where we're going. Great conversation for experts like Steve and a novice fan like my co-host
Wait, did
Jen.
you just call him an expert?
On MCU? Sure. Yeah. He was good at it. He was good. So I couldn't have Red on because he cursed too much. He would get on She-Hulk and it'd be a 20-minute diatribe of language. So yeah, just find me there. And of course, find me on Facebook and Instagram. Magic on the dollar.
What are you doing, David?
What?
Oh my gosh.
I'm being libeled on here.
All right, Rhett. Final. I can never end these things in a good way. Rhett, what's your final thoughts? Final shots? I know you don't have plugs.
Yeah, I have come in real hot on Star Wars for many weeks now, or maybe even months. I thought Kenobi was just a garbage. I was very disappointed with a lot of Mandalorian season 3. I loved 1 and 2. I thought Boba Fett was just, it's just the worst. And but I don't want to lose sight of something. I love Star Wars. Okay, I love it. It has shaped almost everything about my world, my worldview, and the way I absorb entertainment. And I have spent more time in that world, at least in my imagination, than anywhere else. I mean, since I was a child, right? I'm still there most of the time, and I want it to be better. It angers me that it is not as good as I feel like it can be, and I hope it gets better. Now, if you ask me what I'm looking forward to, I don't know that any of the movies announced so far are going to happen. So it's hard to really get excited about them. I like conceptually of either moving way in the past, disconnected from all this crap, or way in the future, disconnected from all this crap.
Yeah.
The past has it, that carries some problems going back, but I want to see something like that. I want to see something new, something more akin to an adventure film. I don't need the weight of of the burdens that Star Wars carries now. I want those gone, and I just want a fresh view of it. I want to be entertained. I want to have good storytelling, and I'd like something that my kids and maybe in the next 10, 15 years, grandkids can latch onto and enjoy, and then I can share with them. I'm hopeful, but not too much.
Most kids don't like narrative stuff anymore, anyways. I mean, so
that's
going to be a tough sell.
That's a function of civilization's entropic spiral down the toilet. And if I would like to hold that back as much as we can. If we can, let's be a little more intelligent and sophisticated in the things that we absorb. But we'll see.
It's got to be a YouTube short.
Yeah.
Steve, final thoughts and shots, and plug your stuff.
Well, one of my first final thoughts is I owe a huge apology to Roth. I was supposed to go on his show months ago and talk Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Absolutely forgot and just absolutely no-showed the guy. I wasn't trying to big time you. It just kind of happened in a bad way. So I am ready whenever you're ready, Roth. You just let me know. I'll come talk about a movie I've never seen and act like I've seen it. Whatever you want, buddy. I'm there.
There was no big. You were busy at the time, so there was no worries. We will get you on though.
I absolutely think that Star Wars peaked just before it crashed. It was it was the best of times. It was the worst of times. We were headed towards so much great Clone Wars stuff and everything else. But I'll tell you. I just maintain I don't know that the status quo with Star Wars is going to change. I think it's going to kind of hum along in that status quo. And unfortunately, that means a lot of disappointment for people like myself and Rhett and others who want to see, who want to understand why Obi-Wan kicked the crap out of Vader but let him live twice, and those kinds of things. But you know what? Ultimately, I have to always remind myself it's entertainment, it's subjective, and it's not going to affect my life one way or the other. And I have great memories and great times growing up and even beyond. I will never forget the night that I arranged for about 30 people to go see Star Wars when it came out in 97. Made sure everyone had rides from the campus, made sure we were all getting to the big theater downtown, or not downtown, but over across town. And just making sure that we all had a great time that night. And I even ignored a girl who might have liked me at the time, and because it was Star Wars on the screen, and it was good stuff. It was just a great time. And there's a lot of great memories, with the wars, and you can't take that away from me. And so, there you go. Same thing with the Marvel stuff. It's all kind of the same bag to me, but this is about Star Wars, not about Marvel stuff. And, when it comes to, I could talk about each individual thing. I think Andor really is a problem. It shows the systemic problem with Star Wars storytelling right now, and that is there's no clear vision, and everyone wants Star Wars to be what they want it to be, rather than making Star Wars what it is. And what it is what George Lucas made it to be. It goes all the way back to our original talk about Lucasian Star Wars versus what Disney Star Wars is now. And I think that if you ever question what should Star Wars be, just look and see what George Lucas made it. And so I think that that's where you got to be at with Star Wars. Now, if I was going to plug my stuff right now, I'd say geekoutpodcast.com. You can find me on Instagram, The Real Geek, or Real Geek Out Loud, Twitter at Geek Out Loud, all those kinds of things. But I've got more to say about Star Wars. For example, if you take the whole idea of Baby Yoda showing up at the end of that first season of Mandalorian, you're really talking about the thing that made Star Wars so interesting from the get-go. The marketing potential plus the cuteness factor that just brings everybody together, but also really ignited a passion in fans because they were already into what the Mandalorian was doing. But then suddenly you introduce that mystery, and it was just fantastic and great. And I'm afraid that some of that was gone at the end of season 3, though I enjoyed season 3 very greatly. I thought it was wonderful, and loved the fight, loved the big battle at the end, loved the basically the restoration of Mandalore, if you will. But I think because of what had come in season 2 and in season 1, people were expecting some other big reveal. Ahsoka's probably going to give us those big reveals. We'll probably see Ezra, like the clone of Ezra Bridger, like Luke and Heir to the Empire, and there may very well be a Jeruas Kabeath and that sort of thing. So I look forward to maybe what Ahsoka has for us with Thrawn and what's going to be entailed there. I hope they do better by Thrawn than they did by the Grand Inquisitor and Obi-Wan Kenobi, because as we all know, the Grand Inquisitor went from being this imposing Utapauan looking character to basically Uncle Fester's burnt cousin.
Bring back the helicopter lightsabers.
Bring back the helicopter lightsabers wherein everyone can fly. If all they do is hold aloft their magic sword and say, by the power of lightsabers, I now have the power of flight. I'm just seeing how many more final thoughts I can get in here. Because
okay, so now we're in phase 5.
11 more minutes and we had 2 hours.
More and more disgusted. The more
now we're at Quantumanium.
Thank you so much for having me. Please tune in to Geek Out Loud, where we actually do real podcasts of substantial length.
Where they're actually 3 hours long. That's right. Here's what I was reminded of with Return of the Jedi being in theaters. There is nothing better than seeing a Star Wars in the theater with a friend, a loved one,
yes,
a parent.
Yes.
And I want that back so badly.
Preach,
and
preacher.
So that's my hope, is that we
Star
get that
War
again.
in the movie theater. I love a Star War in a movie. Yes.
Yeah.
I saw The Force Awakens with all of my high school best friends. There were like 15 of us. We all lined up ahead of time, even though there was no need for it because we had assigned seats, and it was just awesome.
I drove out to Austin, Texas to see Force Awakens.
There you go.
And it was a great time. But I tell you, I walked out of that movie really worried because I'm like, I didn't like this as much as I wanted to like
that damn steel pecker.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate it so much. That stupid metal bird. It's like, come on. It's like it's fine for you to brag about doing the movie on film instead of digital, but why take your special effects all the way back to pre-Harryhausen days? Why would you do that? I mean, they basically went to a tchotchke shop and got one of those birds that you pour water in it. Like, hey, this looks great. Let's put this on film, idiots.
All right, we're going to end on that.
Are you sure you had fun with the Force Awakens? I heard there was some stuff pre-show that
All right, no.
Oh
no
yeah,
more.
there was great stuff that happened pre-show, but I can't talk about.
Also, Mikey, don't forget, 25 years ago today, the second Battle of Hogwarts, Voldemort was defeated for all time. So it is Harry Potter Day.
What?
Must remember.
Is today Harry Potter Day? Okay.
Yeah, May 2nd, 1998.
That's
God bless Harry Potter. Did that happen in 98?
98, May 2nd. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh, like Harry Potter canonically.
In the books, it happened
canonically.
Okay.
Yeah,
canonically happened in 98.
It was good that they got that last battle in before graduation there at Hogwarts. They got out for the summer.
Well, May is a terrible place. Don't be at Hogwarts in May.
There.
You know, Harry Potter, those books really, I'll tell you what, that turf J.K. Rowling, she did a great job. Notorious turf J.K. Rowling did a great job of absolutely capturing what it is to be a kid growing up through your teenage years. And it was so natural. Like, there was nothing forced. There was nothing weird or awkward. It really, I was so surprised.
Well, and you grew with the books. From
Yes,
reading the first one to the last one, the books were short as the characters did, which was fantastic. I mean, it was really, really well done storytelling.
You know, they got the HBO Max show coming up. I hope we get the duel inside.
The more I read the books, and I just went through my 7th reread of the entire series.
Jenny, oh my goodness.
6 and 7, part 1 and 2 are just they're bad. Like, we need to redo those 3 movies. They're just
Justice for Jenny.
Was that small?
All right, hey, real quick, I just want to say thank you to the chat. Thank you to everybody that tuned in live. I know Ted, Brian, who else was in there? Matt was in there for a little bit. Earl, of course, was in there for a little bit. Craig, Aussie,
Rob,
Nate.
you sounded like Rhett impersonating Corky from Life Goes On.
Somebody get G-Man a Jello pudding pop.
All right.
I do like
we'll be back next week. Actually, we're going to be talking about Visions, some new Star Wars. We're going to be talking Star Wars Visions next Tuesday. The normal crew will be here.
Is there no Guardians? Is there no Guardians show?
That's on Thursday.
Oh,
we got to give people a full week. I want to give people a full
overnights.
Yeah, I want people to take a full week on Thursday. So
if Guardians makes me cry, I'm never watching another Marvel movie.
No, the Wikipedia is up in case you want to go read the whole
No, don't read the Wikipedia. Don't do it.
I'll do that.
Can I get Can I get a clean sign off? Can I just
bye?
Sure.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Hey, everyone. This is Steve for Deucecast Extra. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time when we're talking whatever we're talking about. See you around, everybody. I was muted there, so I just want to make sure that everyone